One of my favorite tools are crystals. So there's two types of crystals. There's the crystals that protect you and crystals that activate you. The protection crystals are great at the beginning because they're in a way your kind of like sometimes first line of defense, sometimes it's the last line of defense. So without crystals, typically, and I bet it's gonna get to a place to where your energy is just so resilient to where you won't need crystals. At the beginning, it helps a lot of times. It helped me. So at the beginning, there's only so much negativity that you can be exposed to before you're no good to the world. You feel like you're drained, you're shut off, you're done for the day, you don't want to talk, you're just at the end of your rope. And that's because you have been exposed to so much energy, your body can't handle it, it's overheating and shutting down, it's done. So what ends up happening are the crystals become the absorption points. So with any kind of negativity from the EMF or what's being released, they go into these darker crystals first instead of me. So it's great because that's the crystal's job. So it's kind of like the black tourmalines, the shungites, all the darker crystals, and the ones that we have down there, we charge them in the land as well here. They're great because instead of it coming to me, it goes to that crystal, which is designed to handle it. And with crystals, like typically, like you put them under the sun or under the moonlight, but citrine, this fella over here, which we have, you'll see it all over. You can have one that you can wear around, you can have one beside you where you sleep. But the cool thing about this is it carries the energy of the sun. So it does not need to be cleared, number one. Second, is it clears other crystals as well. Because the thing is, when you'll never know, let's say you'll never know when a crystal will be clear. Because sometimes, like, okay, it's doing well, you have a visitor and their energy is so intense, and next thing you know, your crystal that was clear for 7 days, 10 days, somebody walks in and within 20 minutes it's full. You'll know it's full because you hold it, it's gonna burn your hands. You're like, oh my gosh, what is this? Or you hold it and you get like, oof, you get really angry, or it's like it transmits, because if someone's really angry and it absorbs it sometimes, when you hold it, it could have, depending on what kind of empath you are, you might feel that emotion or drained. And for me, it's more like it's a lot, so I have to shake my hands. This fella, I have it here close to a lot of things because it clears a lot of things that's around it, so I don't have to worry about it. So in a way, it's a system for me to do that. So there's that. Darker ones are there to protect. Citrine's there to make sure everything's cleared. And then, so you have protection, but you also have activation in a way. Because the goal to start jump-starting, like, your spiritual gifts is experiencing higher frequency, experiencing your authentic nature. And sometimes it's harder when you live in a world to where it's like keeping you lower. So you have to do things to jumpstart it. So there's certain crystals, for example, Celestite and Selenite. So these two, I like them because they're what I call vibration raisers. So I have these longer, like these in the room or in the bed. You can have it as a grid in your bed, and they are both connected to the angelic realm. So whatever, it's kind of like they bring forth that energy into your field. And sometimes what I said is your vibration becomes your protection. So it just keeps things in a higher vibratory field. That's what I've used them for in the past. And then you have amethyst, and they're more to do with the crown chakra. So anyone that's like, oh, I'm having a hard time with intuitive messages or or meditation, like I can't hear my higher self. Amethyst is great as well because it facilitates that. So a lot of times when you're starting off, it's great because it reminds you of a frequency that you have within you that you've forgotten that you've had. And when you touch it, when you have it with you, it starts activating it within you. And it comes to a place to where you're like, oh gosh, I'm feeling this way even when I don't have the crystal. And I'm using it as a tool. But at the beginning, it wakes you up till you no longer need it. But it's kind of like first aid kits at the beginning. Like you have a first aid kit. You have it there, it's there, and then you forget about it. But when you need it, it's there. But that's kind of like how I look at them. And they're good. I mean, they're good. They serve their purpose. They can protect you. They can activate things. They can magnify things. They can bring forth different vibrations. So they're good to have with you if you can. Places where you frequent. Your room is a big one. If you're working at home and a lot of stress is at your workplace and where you work, but it's predominantly where you are is important, where you spend most of your time and when you're affected the most. If you're like, oh my gosh, most of my stress, is at nighttime or in bed is great because the bed that's where you go to sleep. That's where you recharge. So you want to make sure that process is as seamless and uninterrupted as possible. So that's kind of like the baseline. Then when you realize, oh shoot, every time I go to work, I'm really affected by my coworker or this and that, then you kind of like plan to see where you're affected the most. But for the most part, what it does is it gives you a little bit of a breather, because instead of you being in overdrive and you being like you've given your last energy to it and now you're completely drained and now you're like, I don't have anything to give, you realize, oh shoot, I didn't break down. I've got 60% more energy. What do I want to do with this? Because a lot of times when you're so drained of energy, your body's self-healing mechanisms can kick in, whether it's clearing yourself naturally or healing your body. It can't focus on what it needs to focus on to keep you in optimum state of wellness, physically, mentally, energetically, because it's now going to dealing with the external stimuli that you've been dealing with all day. It doesn't have that extra bandwidth. So a lot of times it frees you up with that. And then the next thing is for people who are a little bit more sensitive to energy is energetic shields. And this is something that, like, once you try it out, and I'm going to walk you through it, it makes a huge difference, because sometimes all you need is to experience for a day, 7 days, 14 days, what it feels like to not absorb everybody else's crap. And when you feel what that is and you realize, oh my gosh, I've got so much more bandwidth, I've got mental clarity, like, and I'm actually not depressed. I thought I was, but shoot, I put the shield on and all of a sudden I'm not. You're gonna quickly realize what was yours and what was not yours in the first place. There's a lot of times people, when you own something without thinking about it, it becomes your reality. Like, I am angry, I'm depressed, I'm thinking I'm not good enough. I don't want you to feel inauthentic to yourself, but ask the extra question, is this mine? Is this truly, really mine? Did I learn it? Did I pick it up? Did I feel, is it mine? And if it's yours, sure, work on it. It's a lot of tools. But what if it's not yours and you thought it was yours, so you took it on? Next thing you know, you think you're working on an entire life on, it could have been somebody's gestational and generational thing, and because you were empathic and your third eye was open, you picked up the thought, and now you're going crazy working and thinking, where is the root? Root's not even yours. You just picked it up. And I met so many people who are like that.